My name is Brendan Ortiz, and I used to think my biggest problem was debugging code at 3 in the morning. Turns out I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. The real problem was sleeping next to a woman who'd been debugging our marriage for months, looking for ways to delete me from her life. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I found Lauren's second phone on a Tuesday night in October. She'd left it charging in the kitchen, hidden behind the coffee maker like some amateur spy. Lauren King Ortiz, my wife of 8 years, chief financial officer at Meridian Industries, and apparently a woman with secrets worth hiding. The phone buzzed. A text from Van appeared on the lock screen. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Your husband still clueless? My coffee mug hit the granite countertop harder than I intended. 8 years of marriage, and she was texting another man about my ignorance. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was a senior software engineer, paid to find bugs in systems, and I'd missed the biggest bug in my own life. I didn't confront her that night. Lauren was upstairs in her home office, probably working on another spreadsheet or plotting my professional demise. Instead, I did what any good engineer would do. I started gathering data. The Find My app on her main phone showed her location history. Late nights at the office that were actually at the Marriott downtown, lunch meetings that lasted until evening at restaurants I'd never heard of. Credit card statements showed purchases at Victoria's Secret, lingerie I'd never seen her wear. Lauren walked into the kitchen at exactly 6:30 the next morning, her usual time. She moved with the precision of someone who scheduled her life in 15-minute increments. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore to intimidate subordinates. She poured coffee into her travel mug without looking at me. "Morning, dear," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Brendan." Her voice carried the warmth of a quarterly earnings report. "Don't forget about the all-hands meeting today. You're expected to attend?" Expected. Not invited. Expected. Like I was another employee she could order around. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. "Should be educational?" She paused at the door, her hand on the handle. For a moment, I thought she might say something human. Instead, she checked her watch and left. The all-hands meeting at Meridian Industries was held in their gleaming conference center. Lauren stood at the podium in her power suit, commanding the room like a general addressing troops. I sat in the back, watching her perform. "This quarter's results exceed all expectations," she announced to the crowd of 200 employees. "We've streamlined operations, eliminated redundancies, and maximized shareholder value." Eliminated redundancies. I wondered if that included unfaithful wives. Then she did something that changed everything. "Before we continue," Lauren said, her eyes scanning the room until they found me, "I need to address a personal matter publicly. My husband, Brendan Ortiz, made some inappropriate comments about our company's hiring practices at a recent social event. Brendan, would you please stand and apologize to everyone here?" The room fell silent. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. My face burned with embarrassment and rage, but I stood up anyway. "I apologize," I said, my voice steady despite the fury building inside me, for any inappropriate comments I may have made. "Thank you," Lauren said, her smile sharp as a blade. "Now let's get back to business." I sat down, my hands shaking with anger. She'd humiliated me in front of her entire company for something I'd never done. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd supported through business school, had just destroyed my dignity for sport. That night, I made a decision. If Lauren wanted to play corporate games, I'd show her what a real audit looked like. I started with Van, Evan Dorsey, vice president of sales at Meridian Industries. 42 years old, divorced, drove a Tesla Model S, and lived in a downtown condo that cost more than most people's houses. He was everything I wasn't, smooth, wealthy, and apparently very good at seducing other men's wives. Finding his information was easier than I expected. Corporate directories, social media, public records. It was all there for anyone with the patience to look. Van posted his entire life on Instagram, expensive dinners, weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard, photos of his Tesla in the company parking garage. I spent the next week building a comprehensive file on both of them. Lauren's calendar showed regular budget meetings with Van that lasted hours. Her credit card showed charges at hotels during times when she claimed to be at client dinners. Van's social media showed him at the same restaurants, the same hotels, always just out of frame from Lauren's carefully curated posts. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed more than proof of an affair. I needed leverage. Nina Rodriguez from my office provided the missing piece. We were having coffee on Friday morning when she mentioned the gossip from Meridian's happy hour. "Your wife was there again last night," Nina said, stirring her latte. She was pretty drunk, talking about her personal life. Some of the things she said. Nina trailed off, looking uncomfortable. What kind of things? About you, about your marriage, about intimate details that shouldn't be public knowledge. My jaw clenched. Such as? Brendan, I don't think you want to hear this. Try me. Nina sighed. She was telling people you're inadequate in bed, that you're boring, predictable, and that she's found someone who actually knows how to satisfy a woman. The coffee shop around us seemed to fade away. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was destroying my reputation, turning our private life into entertainment for her colleagues. There's more, Nina continued. She's been telling people you're holding back her career, that you're jealous of her success and trying to sabotage her at company events. Is that why she made me apologize at the all-hands meeting? Probably. She's building a narrative, Brendan, making you look like the problem so when she leaves you, everyone will think she's the victim. I finished my coffee and stood up. Thanks for telling me, Nina. I owe you one. What are you going to do? I looked out the window at the Meridian Industries building across the street, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun like a mirror. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, I said. A clean audit. Monday morning, I walked into my boss's office and resigned. Not just from my project, from the company entirely. Tom Harrison, my manager for 6 years, looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Brendan, you can't be serious. You're our best senior engineer. The Morrison project needs you. I placed my resignation letter on his desk. I'm very serious, Tom. I've accepted a position with Blackstone Technologies. Tom's eyes widened. Blackstone was Meridian's biggest competitor, and everyone knew they'd been trying to poach talent from our engineering team for months. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, I continued. 30% salary increase, stock options, and a signing bonus that's frankly embarrassing. What brought this on? Is it about what happened at the all-hands meeting last week? I'd been hoping he'd ask. Partially. I don't appreciate being publicly humiliated by my wife for something I never did. But mostly, it's about professional respect. I've been here 6 years, and I'm still being treated like a junior developer. Tom leaned back in his chair. Brendan, if this is about Lauren's presentation, it's about a lot of things, Tom, including the fact that my wife thinks she can order me around like I work for her. I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made of Lauren's comments at the happy hour. Nina had helped me get close enough to record Lauren's drunken confession about our marriage, her affair, and her plans to upgrade to someone more suitable for a woman of her position. Tom's face went pale as he listened to Lauren describing our intimate life in graphic detail, laughing about my performance issues, with a room full of Meridian employees. Jesus, Brendan, I had no idea. Neither did I until recently. I'm CCing HR and the board of directors on my resignation. I think they should know what their CFO does at company social events. I left Tom's office and walked straight to my car. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone was buzzing with calls from HR. I ignored them all. The Blackstone offer was real. I'd been interviewing with them for 3 weeks, ever since Lauren's public humiliation. They'd been trying to recruit me for months, and when I finally returned their calls, they made an offer that was impossible to refuse. My phone rang. Lauren's name appeared on the screen. Brendan, what the hell do you think you're doing? Her voice was sharp with panic. I'm advancing my career, dear. Isn't that what you've been encouraging me to do? You can't just quit your job without discussing it with me first. Why not? You didn't discuss your affair with me first. Silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you think you know. I know about Van, Lauren. I know about the hotels, the late-night meetings, and the creative accounting you've been doing with our marriage. Brendan, we need to talk. No, we don't. We need lawyers. Good ones. I hung up and drove to my new office at Blackstone Technologies. The signing bonus alone was more than I'd made in the last 6 months at Meridian. Lauren's public humiliation had inadvertently given me the push I needed to leave a job that was going nowhere. The irony was delicious. That evening, I met Jake Morrison at Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar on the wrong side of town. Jake was my brother-in-law, married to my sister Carmen, and the closest thing I had to a best friend. He was also a union electrician with a creative approach to problem-solving. So, let me get this straight, Jake said, nursing his third beer. Your wife is cheating on you with some corporate pretty boy, she humiliated you in front of 200 people, and she's been telling everyone you're lousy in bed? That's the condensed version, yes. And now you want to what, exactly? I pulled out a folder containing everything I'd gathered on Van and Lauren. Photos, credit card statements, hotel receipts, text message screenshots, and a detailed timeline of their affair. I want to audit their lives the same way Lauren audits company budgets. Line by line, expense by expense, until I find every discrepancy. Jake flipped through the documents, whistling low. "This is some serious detective work, Brendan. You sure you're not going overboard?" "She went overboard when she decided to destroy my reputation for fun. I'm just returning the favor." "What do you need from me?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Van drives a Tesla Model S, parks it in the same spot every day at Meridian Industries. I need someone with electrical expertise to help me send him a message." Jake grinned. "Now you're talking my language." We spent the next hour planning Van's introduction to the consequences of sleeping with other men's wives. Nothing permanent, nothing traceable, just expensive enough to get his attention. The next morning, Lauren was gone when I woke up. Her suitcase was missing from the closet, along with most of her business clothes. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Staying at Taylor's until we can discuss this rationally. Don't do anything stupid." Taylor Martinez was Lauren's best friend and the head of public relations at Meridian Industries. She was also the person who'd organized the happy hour where Lauren had shared intimate details about our marriage with half the company. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Then I called Jake. "She's gone. You ready to do this?" "Born ready, brother. Meet me at the Meridian parking garage at lunchtime. And bring a bag of sugar." Van's Tesla was parked in its usual spot, gleaming black paint reflecting the October sun. The car was his pride and joy, featured in at least a dozen Instagram posts over the past month. He'd bought it to impress women, and apparently it was working. Jake worked quickly, his electrician's training evident as he located the car's charging port and made some creative modifications. Nothing that would hurt anyone, but enough to ensure Van's day would be memorable. I handled the sugar in the gas tank, except Teslas don't have gas tanks. So instead, I left a small gift in his air conditioning system, a bag of frozen shrimp, carefully placed where they'd thaw slowly and create an unforgettable aroma. We were done in 10 minutes. As we walked away, I placed a note under Van's windshield wiper. "Audit failed. Try again." That afternoon, I watched from the coffee shop across the street as Van discovered his car wouldn't start. The charging port had been damaged just enough to prevent proper connection, and the smell from the air conditioning had attracted a small crowd of concerned coworkers. Van stood next to his disabled Tesla, his expensive suit wrinkled with sweat, his face red with frustration. He looked exactly like what he was, a man whose day had gone completely sideways. I finished my coffee and walked back to my new office at Blackstone, where my actual boss treated me with the respect I'd been missing for years. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. This has gone far enough." "Van." I typed back, "The audit has just begun." Van's response came faster than I expected. Instead of a text, he called me directly. "Listen, you psycho, I don't know what game you think you're playing." "The same game you've been playing with my wife for the past 6 months, I interrupted, "except I'm better at it." "You damaged my car. That's vandalism. I could call the police." "Go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear about your affair with a married woman. I'm sure your board of directors would find it fascinating, too." Silence on the other end of the line. "What do you want, Brendan?" "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could sleep with my wife and humiliate me without any repercussions. You were wrong. This is between you and Lauren. Leave me out of it. You put yourself in it when you decided to screw my wife. Now you get to live with the results." I hung up and immediately called the tip line for the Securities and Exchange Commission. Van's Instagram post showed a lifestyle that didn't match his declared income, and his recent stock trades looked suspiciously well-timed. I didn't have proof of insider trading, but I had enough circumstantial evidence to trigger an investigation. The anonymous tip I filed was detailed, professional, and completely factual. Everything I reported could be verified through public records and social media posts. If Van was clean, he'd be fine. If he wasn't, well, that was his problem. Thursday morning brought the first sign that my strategy was working. Nina called me at my new office, barely containing her excitement. "Brendan, you need to hear this. Van Dorsey was escorted out of the building this morning by security. Word is he's been suspended pending an internal investigation." "What kind of investigation?" "Nobody knows for sure, but there are rumors about SEC inquiries and possible financial improprieties. HR is being very tight-lipped." "Interesting. What about Lauren?" "She's been in emergency meetings with the board all morning. She looks terrible, like she hasn't slept in days." I felt a grim satisfaction. Lauren had built her entire identity around being in control, being the smartest person in the room. Now she was watching her carefully constructed world fall apart, one piece at a time. That evening, Lauren called me from Taylor's house. "Brendan, please, we need to stop this before it gets out of hand." "Stop what?" I'm just going to work every day at my new job, making more money than I ever did at Meridian. If Van is having legal troubles, that's between him and the SEC. You know exactly what you're doing. The car, the investigation, the resignation, you're trying to destroy us. I'm not trying to destroy anything, Lauren. I'm just conducting a thorough audit of my life, removing inefficiencies and redundant relationships. Don't use my own words against me. Why not? You used them against me for 8 years. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, more vulnerable than I'd heard it in years. I made mistakes, Brendan. I know that. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work things out. You didn't make mistakes, Lauren. You made choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to humiliate me publicly. You chose to turn our marriage into entertainment for your coworkers. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Just a little adultery? Just a small public humiliation? Just enough betrayal to spice things up? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you made me apologize to 200 people for something I never did? Was it fair when you told your colleagues I was inadequate in bed? Was it fair when you decided our marriage vows were just suggestions? Brendan, the audit isn't finished, Lauren. Not even close. I hung up and poured myself a scotch. The house felt different without her in it. Cleaner somehow, like I'd finally gotten rid of something that had been poisoning the air. Friday brought news that exceeded my expectations. Van's suspension had become a termination, and the SEC investigation was expanding to include several of his recent stock transactions. His social media accounts had gone dark, and his Tesla was still in the shop, but the real victory came from an unexpected source. Taylor Martinez called me directly. Brendan, we need to talk. Do we? I thought you were Team Lauren all the way. Can we meet somewhere private? There are things you need to know. We met at a coffee shop in neutral territory, far from Meridian Industries and the social circles where Lauren held court. Taylor looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing around the room. Lauren doesn't know I'm here, she said without preamble. Then why are you here? Because she's planning something, and I think you should know about it. Taylor pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages between her and Lauren. The conversation was from the night before, after my phone call with Lauren. Lauren, he's not going to stop. He's going to destroy everything. Taylor, maybe you should just come clean, tell him the truth about everything. Lauren, the truth? The truth is that he's an abusive husband who's been sabotaging my career for years. The truth is that I was afraid to leave him because of his violent temper. Taylor, Lauren, that's not true, and you know it. Lauren, it will be true when I'm done. I have friends in family court. I have documentation of his erratic behavior since the separation. By the time I'm finished, he'll be lucky if he gets supervised visitation with our non-existent children. I read the messages twice, my anger building with each word. She's going to claim I'm abusive? Taylor nodded. She's been laying groundwork for weeks. The public apology thing? She recorded it, edited it to make it look like you were being belligerent and had to be calmed down. The resignation? She's spinning it as an unstable reaction to her setting boundaries in the relationship. And you're telling me this because? Because I've known Lauren for 10 years, and I've watched her destroy people who got in her way. But this is different. This is evil. You're not perfect, Brendan, but you're not abusive. You don't deserve to have your life destroyed because she got caught cheating. I finished my coffee and stood up. Thank you for telling me this, Taylor. I appreciate it. What are you going to do? I smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it was genuine. I'm going to finish the audit. Saturday morning, I drove to Jake's house in Southie. He was in his garage, working on his motorcycle, grease-stained hands moving with the precision of someone who'd been fixing things his whole life. You look like a man with a plan, he said, not looking up from the engine. Lauren's planning to claim I'm abusive. She's going to try to destroy my reputation in family court. Jake's hands stopped moving. He looked up at me, his expression serious. That's a serious accusation, Brendan. You sure about this? I showed him the text messages Taylor had shared. Jake read them twice, his jaw tightening with each word. This is some next-level manipulation, he said finally. What do you need? I need to document everything. Every interaction, every conversation, every meeting. I need evidence that I'm not the person she's going to claim I am. And then what? Then I'm going to give her enough rope to hang herself. We spent the next hour planning what I privately called Operation Clean Audit. The goal was simple. Create situations where Lauren would reveal her true nature on record, while maintaining my own behavior as completely professional and reasonable. Step 1 was the house. Lauren would eventually have to come back for her belongings, and when she did, I'd be ready. Jake helped me install discrete security cameras in every room, all feeding to a central recording system that would capture both audio and video. Step 2 was communication. Every phone call, every text message, every email would be documented and saved. I'd respond to everything professionally, never losing my temper, never giving her ammunition for her abuse claims. Step 3 was the nuclear option, and I hoped I wouldn't need it. But if Lauren wanted to play dirty, I had enough dirt on her and Van to bury them both. Monday brought the first test of my new strategy. Lauren called at exactly 9 a.m., her voice crisp and businesslike. "Brendan, I need to come by the house tonight to pick up some things." "Of course. What time works for you?" 7 o'clock? I'll have Taylor with me." "That's fine. I'll make sure I'm here." "And Brendan, I want this to be civil. No drama, no confrontations. Just let me get my things and go." "Absolutely. I want this to be as smooth as possible for both of us." She seemed surprised by my reasonable tone. "Good. I'll see you tonight." I spent the day at Blackstone throwing myself into my new project with an enthusiasm I hadn't felt in years. My new colleagues treated me as an equal, valued my input, and actually listened when I made suggestions. It was everything my old job hadn't been. At 6:30, I was home, waiting. The security system was active, recording everything. I'd prepared a folder with copies of all the documents Lauren might need, insurance papers, financial records, anything that would demonstrate my cooperation and reasonableness. Lauren and Taylor arrived at exactly 7 o'clock. Lauren looked tired, older somehow, as if the stress of the past week had aged her. She was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual power suit, and her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Thank you for being flexible about this," she said as I let them in. "Of course. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" Taylor looked surprised by my polite tone. Lauren just nodded. "Water would be nice." I brought them both glasses of water and sat down in the living room while Lauren went upstairs to pack. Taylor remained downstairs, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "She's really struggling with this," Taylor said after a few minutes of awkward silence. "I'm sure she is. Change is always difficult." "Brendan, I want you to know that I never supported what she did. The affair, the public humiliation, none of it was right." "I appreciate that, Taylor. I know you were in a difficult position." We sat in silence for a while, listening to Lauren moving around upstairs. Then Taylor's phone buzzed. She looked at it and frowned. "I need to take this. Work emergency." She stepped outside to take the call, leaving me alone in the house with Lauren. A few minutes later, I heard Lauren coming down the stairs, dragging a large suitcase. "I think I have everything I need for now," she said. "I'll probably need to come back for more things later." "That's fine. Just let me know when." She paused at the door, her hand on the handle. "Brendan, I want you to know that I never intended for things to get this bad between us." "I believe you. Is there any chance we could work this out? Maybe go to counseling, try to rebuild what we had?" I looked at her for a long moment. She seemed sincere, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen in years. For just a second, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her in the first place. Then I remembered the text messages Taylor had shown me, the plan to destroy my reputation, to claim I was abusive, to use the family court system as a weapon against me. "I don't think so, Lauren. Too much has happened. Too much trust has been broken." Her expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "I see. Well, I hope you'll be reasonable about the divorce proceedings. I don't want this to get ugly." "Neither do I. I just want it to be fair." "Fair." She repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "Yes. Well, we'll see what fair looks like, won't we?" She left without saying goodbye. Taylor returned a few minutes later, looking flustered. "Where's Lauren?" "She left. Said she had everything she needed." Taylor looked confused. "She was supposed to wait for me. We were going to dinner." My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Lauren, sent to a group that included Taylor, her parents, and several of her work colleagues. "Just left the house. Brendan was drinking and became verbally aggressive when I tried to discuss the divorce. I'm scared to be alone with him anymore. Thank God Taylor was there to witness his behavior." I showed the message to Taylor, whose face went pale. "That's not what happened at all," she said. "You were completely polite the entire time. You offered us water, for God's sake." "I know, and so did the security cameras." Taylor stared at me. "You recorded everything?" "Every word, every gesture, every moment. Lauren just made a serious mistake." I forwarded the security footage to my lawyer, along with Lauren's false text message. Then I sent copies to my own phone, with a timestamp showing exactly when Lauren had sent her lies to our mutual contacts. The trap was set. Lauren had just committed defamation in writing, with multiple witnesses and video evidence to contradict her claims. Her plan to paint me as an abusive husband had backfired spectacularly. My phone rang. It was my lawyer, David Chen. "Brendan, I just reviewed the footage you sent me. This is exactly what we needed." "What happens now?" "Now we go on offense. Lauren just handed us everything we need to destroy her credibility in court. No judge is going to believe her abuse claims when we have video evidence of her lying." "What about Van? Any news on his situation?" "The SEC investigation is expanding. Word is they found irregularities in several of his trades, all coincidentally timed just before major Meridian announcements. If they can prove insider trading, he's looking at serious jail time." I hung up and poured myself a scotch. Outside, the October wind was picking up, rattling the windows of the house that would soon be mine alone. Lauren had made her choice, and now she'd have to live with the consequences. The audit was almost complete. Tuesday morning brought chaos to Lauren's carefully ordered world. My lawyer had worked fast, filing a defamation suit against Lauren and submitting the security footage as evidence of her false claims. By noon, copies of the video were in the hands of Meridian's board of directors, along with a detailed timeline of Lauren's affair and her attempts to frame me as abusive. Nina called me at lunch with updates from inside Meridian. "It's like a bomb went off in the executive suite," she said, barely containing her excitement. "Lauren's been in emergency meetings with the board all morning. Word is they're considering whether her personal conduct reflects poorly on the company." "What about Van?" "He's finished. The SEC found evidence of insider trading going back 2 years. He was using information from Lauren's budget meetings to time his stock purchases. They're both looking at federal charges." I felt a grim satisfaction. Lauren and Van had thought they were so clever, so much smarter than everyone else. They'd never considered that their affair might leave a paper trail that would destroy them both. That afternoon, Lauren's lawyer called mine. She wanted to meet, to discuss a settlement. David Chen called me with the details. "She's panicking," he said. "Her lawyer is talking about mutual non-disclosure agreements, financial settlements, anything to make this go away quietly." "What did you tell him?" "I told him we'd consider it. But Brendan, you need to understand. You're in the driver's seat now. She has no leverage left. The abuse claims have been completely undermined, her career is in jeopardy, and her boyfriend is probably going to prison. Set up the meeting, but I want it recorded, and I want witnesses." We met at David's law office on Thursday afternoon. Lauren arrived with her lawyer, an expensive-suited man named Richard Blackwood, who looked like he charged by the minute. Lauren herself looked terrible, pale, drawn, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Blackwood began. "My client is hoping we can resolve this matter amicably, without further damage to either party's reputation." David leaned back in his chair. "Your client has already damaged her own reputation quite thoroughly. We're here to discuss the terms of her surrender." Lauren flinched at the word surrender, but didn't speak. "My client is prepared to offer a generous settlement," Blackwood continued. "Full ownership of the house to Mr. Ortiz, division of retirement accounts, and a substantial cash payment in exchange for mutual non-disclosure agreements." "And what about the defamation?" David asked. "The false abuse allegations? The attempt to destroy my client's reputation in family court?" Blackwood shifted uncomfortably. "Those were misunderstandings, emotional reactions during a difficult time." "Those were lies," David interrupted. "Documented lies, contradicted by video evidence. Your client committed defamation in writing, with multiple witnesses." For the first time since entering the room, Lauren spoke. "Brendan, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can still work this out. We don't have to destroy each other." I looked at her across the conference table. The woman who'd humiliated me in front of 200 people, who'd shared intimate details of our marriage with strangers, who'd planned to claim I was abusive to gain advantage in divorce proceedings. "You're right, Lauren. We don't have to destroy each other. You've already destroyed yourself." "What do you want?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I slid a folder across the table. "Full divorce, no alimony, no claims on my retirement accounts or future earnings. You keep your own retirement funds and personal belongings. I keep the house and everything in it." "That's it?" "That's it. Clean, simple, final." Lauren looked at the papers, then at her lawyer, then back at me. "And the defamation suit?" "Goes away when you sign the divorce papers." "What about my job? The board is considering disciplinary action." I shrugged. "That's between you and them? I'm not involved in your employment situation." Blackwood leaned over and whispered something in Lauren's ear. She shook her head. I need to think about this, she said. You have 24 hours, David replied. After that, we proceed with the defamation suit and let the chips fall where they may. Lauren and her lawyer left without another word. David and I sat in his office, watching them walk to their car through the window. Think she'll sign? David asked. She doesn't have a choice. Her career is over, her boyfriend is going to prison, and she's facing federal charges herself. Signing those papers is the best deal she's going to get. Friday morning, Lauren's lawyer called. She would sign the divorce papers. We met again at David's office, but this time Lauren came alone. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confident, commanding woman who'd humiliated me at the all-hands meeting was gone, replaced by someone who looked beaten. She signed the papers without speaking, her hand shaking slightly as she wrote her name. When she was finished, she looked up at me. I hope you're satisfied, she said. I'm satisfied that justice was served. You made choices, Lauren. This is what those choices cost. She stood up and walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I did love you once. I know, I loved you too. That's what made this so much worse. She left, and I never saw her again.